Hello, and welcome to Notes in 9. I'm David Leedy from LotusNotebook.com. Today's topic is X pages. Can't we all get along without scoped variables? Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is a couple things on where I went to when I got started. We're going to talk about scoped variables, of course. We're going to do an embedded view show single category, something that every Notes client developer has probably done by now. And we're going to have a little walkthrough of an application that uses it. So where did I go to learn this stuff? Well, the first thing I went to is Lotus Developer Forum, and I didn't just search. I saw who was posting about this stuff, like John Mackey, for example, and then I looked up every post he did, and I went through the list just to see what he was saying, and I learned a bunch of stuff from there. Of course, there's a lot of example applications now. My favorite is the Profiles application. This was released by IBM in 2009, Lotusphere. It's on OpenNTF, and it's really where I came to grips with the repeat control, which is a very powerful control. OpenNTF has a lot of other stuff. I used TaskJam from El Guji. This is a great application that they gave away in 2009 at Lotusphere. Not just for the X-Page stuff, but I pulled some of this stuff out that I used in client apps because it was just so pretty, and it looked good. Occasional begging. I haven't employed this yet, but I plan to soon because I'm actually stuck on something. Blogs, of course, blogs. The home of all the blogs in our little community is the planetlotus.org. Searching there is a good thing to do. Xpages Wiki. This is Julian Buss's site. It's a wiki on Xpages. It's a new domain, but he's actually had the site out for a while. I learned so much from here because they're short little code snippets using the back-end objects and all these other different examples. This is by far my favorite site for learning this stuff right now. Xpagesblog.com is a group blog where a bunch of us are talking about Xpage topics. Okay, so the topic today is scoped variables. There's 4 scopes to these variables: application, session, view, and request. Application scope. Now notice how I've written this here. This is how you would type it in JavaScript with a capital S. That is kind of important. Okay, this data has a lifespan of the entire application, and it's available to all users. So think configuration settings, things you might get from a profile document. Session scope. This has a lifespan of the user session, so it's always going to be available to the user, whatever you put in here. It's good for passing data from page to page where you might have used URL parameters or maybe a temporary cookie, because quite frankly, cookies are for eating. The view scope. This has a lifespan of the current page. I used this in the show number 3 of the searching. I had an edit box with a search term in there, and I didn't need that search term in other pages. And when I came back to that page, I wanted it to be clean. So I used view scope because I knew that variable would be cleaned out. Request scope. This has a really short lifespan, like lightning bug short. I don't really know what it's for. I haven't figured this out yet, where the use case for this is. Now, where did I learn about all this scoped variables? TimTripconi.com. He's got a great post. I linked to it here, and that's where I learned all my start on scoped variables. So thanks, Tim. I really appreciate that blog post in particular. Okay, another quick tidbit is that the scoped variables are used for kind of like simple data, as far as I can tell. They're not for domino objects. You're not going to put a document or a view object in there. Okay, embedded view. It's a very common feature to Notes developers. We're going to see how it's used with companies and contacts. Okay, on to the demo. Okay, here's the sample app that I want to walk through. It's kind of detailed in a series of postings on my blog in the X Pages and Pictures series. We've got companies here as main documents and contacts as response documents that are categorized by $ref. Okay, very, very simple so far. In the X page, here's a next page with just a view on it. So we're going to click on one of the companies, and let's create a new contact right away. Here's the company information and a button to create a new contact. And we'll, let's say, Okay, so we created a contact here, and the first thing I want to highlight your attention to is this unit right here. This is being retrieved from a session scoped variable that I loaded in to memory on page load. Here is a view, and if you notice, these people are only for this company. If we go back to the other company, it shows just their contacts. Okay, how's that working? Well, the view is getting this session scoped variable and using that as the unit to be the $ref lookup in the contacts view. So for the traditional Lotus Notes programmers out there, what is this? This is a view, this is a form with an embedded view using show single category. Okay? And again, you can see how that works. Ignore this stuff on the bottom. That's a repeat control. That's not relevant. Okay, so how does this work? If we look at our Company X page and we look at events, here's the JavaScript code. We load the document into memory. We get the universal ID, and I'm putting it into a variable here, and then I'm taking that variable and putting it right into session-scope with the variable name company code. Now this step is kind of, I could have done it in less steps, but I wanted to show the point. So how's that being used? First, let's look here. This is where we displayed the unit. If we look at the properties, data, we're binding the data using the advanced method, and all we're doing is telling it it's a scoped variable. It's using the session scope, which is what I named with the scope I put it in when I created it, and here's the name. So that's how the unit is getting that, or this edit control is getting the unit to display on the X page. Again, right here it is. Okay, now the view control, if we go to properties, let me make this a little bigger, and we look at data, I don't know why there's two of them. Right here it is, category filter. We're telling it to get the session scope company code, and that's what's doing the filter. So this is your show single category. Okay. Now the other thing I wanted to highlight for you is on the save button on the contact page. Okay. So what did we do? We have a button here on the company page to, where is it? To create a new contact, and that brings us over here to the contact page. When we're done with this, we want to save it. We don't want to go back to the home page. We want to go back to the company that brought us there. So on the save button and under the events, I mean, this is very simple, really. We have two simple actions. We first save the document, and then we have an action to open the next page. Okay, and how are we doing that? We're saying it's a category basic, open page, what page? X company. We want to put it in edit mode, but which company document do we want? We want to give it a document ID. So if we look at this, once again, we're using that company code because the session scope is the life of your user session. So this will just stay in memory as long as you want. And as we change companies, it gets overwritten to a new value. And that's how we move around from company to seeing different contacts in this sample application. Okay, for more information, I've got an X Pages and Pictures series on my blog. There's tons of blogs I didn't mention. Declan's blog, Matt White's blog, Mark's blog. There's a lot out there, so just search, you'll find them. Thank you very much. I appreciate your interest.